If you're one of the high achievers who looks completely fine on the outside, hitting goals, holding it all together, while quietly numbing, performing, and bracing against burnout, this one is for you. For many of us, survival became a costume we forgot we were wearing and mistook it for success. By the end of this episode, you will know how to tell surviving versus actually living, how nervous system awareness lets you rebuild identity after trauma and addiction without shame, and how to start loosening that performance mask. And before we finish, I will give you one sober move of the day. I brought on Lisa Lacy because she has lived every layer of this. 8 years sober, she created the C.A.L.M framework after her own survival. She has seen these tools help people move from performing strength to honest, regulated living. Please welcome Lisa Lacy.
Well, hello there, my friend. Thank you for having me on. It's such an honor to be here. I'm excited about our long form conversation today where we can get into the nuances of this.
All right, fantastic. Lisa, you talk about how so many of us learn to perform our way through pain. For the high achiever listening right now, who looks completely fine on paper, but is quietly running on empty, what does high functioning survival look like from the inside? And how do you know when you have crossed the line from living to just surviving?
Well, I think the first important question is what does it look like from the outside? It looks like a polished veneer of success. It looks like the six-figure income. It looks like the perfect blended family. It looks like the house, the cars, the toys. It looks like all of that. From the inside, it looks like, whoa, something is missing. Whoa, I'm not happy. Whoa, I'm drowning all of this in the bottle every night. All bad signs, signs that something might be off. But for me, I didn't have language yet for it. So I was suffering silently behind the scenes without even knowing it because I was in one of my most favorite coping mechanisms, which is workaholism, right? I am a workaholic. It is one of my coping mechanisms. I am good at it. I was in it. Everything was working until it wasn't. And if you are in high functioning survival mode, there will be a crash. Now, I'm hoping for most people the crash is not as monumental and as public as mine was, but there will be some sort of crash. Little things start falling through the cracks on you, right? You can't perform as well as you used to. You start asking different questions. You start asking the exponential questions of, is this all there is? Or you keep going to the what's next? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal without stopping to celebrate the one you just achieved, right? That was me. Run a CrossFit box, run a Gracie Jiu Jitsu training center, do it all. I am superwoman. And we are not. We are human beings. And again, my work is helping people acknowledge, observe, and recognize that they may not be happy, even though they have all the things on paper, on social media. I did such a good job in my second marriage of making us look so pretty that by the time I got out of it, I was like, this is what's happening behind the scenes. People are like, there's no way. I was like, no, I'm serious. This has been happening. We are not getting along and it's getting really bad. So yeah, I helped create the facade because we want it. It's what we believe is success. And what is success is such an individualized question for everybody. And again, I thought I was doing all the things right and they were helpful for other people, but they were not helpful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lies we tell ourselves are always the most troubling, aren't they?
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh, this is great. This is great. When you start going, I'm fine. That's a sign.
Yeah, yeah. So can you take us back 8 years when you and your husband both got sober at the same time, which is something in recovery circles, they're like, don't do this. And
It's way worse than that. We were only 30 days clean. First of all, step one, we were 30 days clean.
yeah,
Step two, we have a 16-year age gap, um, which I did not know. He grayed early, has a full beard. The minute he told me, I almost ran. But we'll talk about the small, soft whisper that we should listen to more often. shortly. But, yes, we 13th stepped our way into a healthy marriage. I do not recommend. Do
Yeah.
not recommend. There is a reason they say, "Hey, maybe work on you," because we brought a lot of our baggage, our abandonment, our trauma, our other addictions into our relationship. I think some of our story is miracle. I think also a lot of our story is the fact that we both do our work individually. He does his work, I do my work, and we managed to meet in the middle. So some of it was miracle, some of it is the fact that we do honor each other's individual recovery time. He's a musician, he's a mechanic by day, musician by night, so I respect that time. I am a creative in many avenues. He respects my time when he's in the music room, that's his time. When I'm in the office, it's my time. So it is not recommended, and now we know why.
Now, did the calm framework that you developed, did it come out of this experience during that time period, or how did that come into to play? And what does calm stand for?
Absolutely. It stands for Conscious and Awareness Liberation Model. So, consciousness is a fancy word. It's a fancy word for knowing who you are. That's it. It's knowing who you are. And here's what has changed exponentially through it. And because of all of the work, liking yourself is so quintessential. So my journey started 10 years ago in inpatient rehabilitation. I went to a dual diagnosis center. For some reason, I thought I needed that because they look at mental health and they look at addiction as well. And I went in thinking I might have a bad marriage and a slight drinking problem. That's all. That's all. And I came out with a chart this thick. And so I'm coming home from I'm coming from Arizona and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of diagnoses there. There was like a borderline, a bipolar, a complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and trauma bondage, and codependency, and bottom fishing. Bottom fishing. Didn't know I was bottom fishing for partners. And I do remember, and I had one of the team of the most 5 brilliant women I've still to this day ever met, clinicians, and, she goes, "Lisa, you're trauma bonded." I was like, "Trauma bonded, explain that." And she told me what it was, and I said, "I'm too smart for that." I said, "I'm too smart for that." So, yeah, I did come to realize I was trauma bonded. But, so my journey of healing, we overuse that word so much, but healing journey started actually 10 years ago. I turned 40 in rehabilitation, was not a happy camper that day, actually got kicked out for playing the bullshit game, out of who gets kicked out of outpatient rehab? They told me my anger issues were above their playmaker. I was playing by the rules. The job was to call each other out on bullshit when we were talking. Terrible game to play with angry people who are detoxing. Terrible game to play. So I went into inpatient rehab, then outpatient rehab, got kicked out of outpatient rehab on my 40th birthday because I wouldn't apologize for playing the games by the rules. So then went into DBT, CBT, neurofeedback, brain mapping, then started, I mean, you name a form of therapy, I did it. But I was still waking up like, this sucks. I literally don't know if I want to make it through this day, is where I was after doing all those treatments, all those modalities. AA, 2 years. My husband and I did 2 years, 6 days a week, sometimes 2 meetings a day. And so, consciousness, self awareness, making choices. Because I think for many of us trauma survivors, our choice was taken from us. So reclaiming that choice to create the awareness, right? What are we doing? What's it costing us? What is financing these decisions that I'm making? And liberation is just a fancy word for freedom. We want to live free. I live with a congenital blood disease and I face my mortality in a different way than I think some other people have to. And it makes me really want to be in the present moment so much because we really don't know. We don't know what's next, and we don't know how much time we have. So, absolutely, out of all of that came the work that I do with people to help them get out of their story of trauma and addiction and into a forward trajectory. That's what I'm always interested in, forward momentum. If you want to look backwards, talk therapy, write a passage, go do it. It'll tell you where you've been. But at some point, we've got to get out of the blame game, the anger game, the victim mentality game, and go, whoa, this is my life. I get to make those choices consciously. And the game changes when you start doing that because observation is not neutral. That is science, quantum physics, quantum mechanics. The minute we observe it, it starts changing for us.
Absolutely. You nailed
Yeah.
it. You just touched on your congenital blood disorder, and I know that you survived multiple near death experiences. What do you think that taught you that having years of a safety net maybe couldn't have taught you? I mean, the experience of knowing this mortality is near to you. Do you think that gave you any sort of acceleration into the thinking that you have today?
The first 9 times, no, not the first 9 times. No, because here's what I did. So, I'd go in for my massive pulmonary embolisms in both lungs, and then I'd get discharged on a Thursday. I'd be back at work on Monday or Tuesday because what was I? I was a workaholic, and working was a coping mechanism. I was good at that. It was easy for me, and I understood it. So, no, at first, no, I just ignored it. Okay, because I was raised by boomers as a Gen Xer, latchkey kid that in the swamps of Louisiana where you toughen up, suck it up, move on, don't talk about it. It's no big deal. It could have been worse, all the things. So that's what you do. You just keep working until you die. And this last time at the beginning of the year, they had a cluster of embolisms this time. Doctor walks in, they go, "You got a cluster this time." I said, "How many?" "Oh, we don't know." I was like, "Cluster, 220. Think we should count? Like maybe we should be counting these things." And then they threw a new diagnosis of lupus pancreatitis and some other things. But here's what was different this time. I turned 50 2 weeks later, and that was pivotal for me. That was transcendental for me. We had grandiose plans. We were going to have things with lots of people. And I was like, screw all you guys. I'm going off by myself to the mountains with my 21-year-old dog. He's the only one that got to come. I've had him since he was 3 months. He has witnessed a life I am just now fully understanding. I got there on Monday, had a beautiful mountain view from the cabin, was watching the sun over the mountains and turning 50 on a Wednesday and crying and like, I'm not where I want to be. What am I doing? And then it hit me that I need to be telling the stories that are shrouded in the most guilt and shame. And what are those? Those are my active addiction stories, my stories of psychosis. And I really wanted to give an insider's perspective on the psychiatric arena as a psychiatric patient, because I think we have some opportunities to make that experience much more helpful, much more humane, and filled with a lot more dignity. So that's the first memoir. I've written some workbooks in the past that did really well. One was a #1 new release in sacred geometry. What I did not want was to transition with these stories still locked inside of me.
I think that's really powerful. And so you just touched on it. Your memoir, as I understand it, coming out in October, is Notes from a Certified Mad Woman. And that's a bold reclaiming of a word that has been used to dismiss people who feel deeply. What does certified mad woman mean to you? And how did naming it become part of rebuilding your identity after self destruction?
Well, I am certifiably insane on paper. So it's actually a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact. And also, it was a reclamation of wait a minute, these are stories that were shrouded in the most guilt and shame for me. So, was writing them catharsis? Absolutely. But also, if I was that alone in it, I know I'm not the only one. I cannot be the only one. And that's what I kept telling myself as I was writing these stories because readers can tell when you're writing a memoir, if you're not really going there, they're gonna tell. They can tell. So I had to really, really go there. So, I am a mad woman. I went into a full-blown psychosis. So and on paper, I look batshit crazy. I'm the most sane one in my family. Actually, my own podcast guest and I were just talking about that, how we are the sanest and the craziest black sheep of our family because I'm the first in 3 generations on both sides, maternal and paternal, to seek and find recovery, not only for mental health, but for addiction. So, it's a statement of fact that is also funny. Yeah.
That's great. So you
Yeah.
own it. I love it.
Yeah.
Uh, when we talk about willpower and focusing on the nervous system as we're trying to get sober, for the listener who's already using sober method, how would calm tools for the nervous system awareness strengthen that observe step? And why can't you simply think your way out of a state of your nervous system still holding?
Well, I can give you an example and I think curiosity is one of our most valuable emotional intelligence skills that often gets overlooked. I always got called an angry person when I was in active addiction. The more I tried to not be angry, like, don't be angry, don't be angry, right? Don't be mad. But the more I tried to not be an angry person, the angrier I would become. See, you cannot and DBT, I had everything memorized. 2 thick books that Marsha Linehan, who is a clinical genius. I had it intellectually, but I was not applying it. See, my goal with people, I want them to leave this conversation with one thing that they can apply today that will actually work. That's easy. I think we overcomplicate it. So, applicable tools. You can have it intellectually in your head all day long, but if you're not embodying it and applying it, you're not going to get the changes. So, we cannot intellectually, we can have it intellectually all day long, but until it becomes consciously embodied in us, with curiosity, with willingness, even saying the words, I am willing to consider the possibility, even if you're going kicking and screaming, the possibility of changing starts the pathway to change. And that is science.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then we're leaning right into the performance mask by what you're saying, because we both had that on workaholic, every issue you could possibly imagine. But when you're in that high achieving zone, that's just kind of who you are. It really becomes your identity. You have everything put together. Everyone sees you as a person that has everything put together. But what is the first honest behavior change that starts to loosen that mask? And how could someone execute it or begin to look at executing without feeling like they're going to come apart in front of everyone?
I always make sure now, so I'm not adding trauma to trauma. And what I mean by that, so I'm not adding something that happened last week to trauma that will show up a year from now to trauma from when I was 10 years old. I make sure, say I'm in a meeting and something rewounds me. I think the word trigger is so overused. So I like the word rewounding. Say something rewounds me. Say my husband and I are in front of somebody and he says something off putting and it rewounds me. I make sure I revisit that. If we're in a place because we don't throw each other under the bus in front of people, it's one of the things that we just don't do. I make sure I circle back to that within 24 to 48 hours. And what that looks like is I set a timer and I say, okay, for the next hour, I'm going to process what this was. How did this rewound me? What's it attached to? Was it something that happened in childhood? I make sure I circle back to that within 24 to 48 hours. And so, see, what that prevents is what happened last week becoming trauma that I'm dealing with a year from now. That way, I'm freed up to work on that stuff that happened at 8, 9, 10. I work on TikTok. TikTok is the wild, wild west. And you get some great comments, and some of them are kind of nasty. And I just let those roll off. It's no problem. I just mute, block, move on, mute, block, move on. I'm busy working with people, mute, block, move on. But one guy told me my hair would look better longer, right? So all these terrible things people are saying, I'm letting it roll off. So like a week later, I was still thinking about that. I have the awareness to go, whoa, wait a minute. That got really sticky. I'm still thinking about some dude who told me my hair would look better longer. What's going on here? And what was going on here is from the time I was 8 years old, my mother, no matter if my hair was black or purple or blue or short or long or whatever, she does not like my hair. I mean, she could say go left, I go left, and then she'd be like, I told you to go right. I'm like, which way? Which way do I go? So do you see the comment? It it wasn't about that dude at
Mhm.
all.
Yeah.
It was about being 9 years old with my mother. That's how trauma sticks to us and works. And so if we're conscious and making these choices and processing it as it comes up in the appropriate places and spaces for it, when I say don't put on a mask, I mean, we can't grieve for 5 hours in a board meeting, right? We're probably not going to keep our jobs very long. However, we can revisit these moments earlier so that they don't become problems for us moving forward. And then we're freed up to look at some of that stuff that happened and not carry it forward into the next chapter.
So much of addiction language is it's soaked in shame, and you just kind of touched on it with the shame that your own mother was giving, and that language carried forward into something that was sticky that had nothing to do with anything else, but it held on. So as someone
Yeah.
moves from this self-destruction towards restoring themselves, what replaces shame as your engine?
What replaces shame as your engine? Anger can. If you don't get stuck in it, anger is beautiful, beautiful creative fuel. If you channel it right, right? Anger can replace shame. Being brutally honest. That's the step one to your previous question is being brutally honest with ourselves first. That's where it matters. Taking inventory of our lives. Wait a minute. Am I putting on a performance? Is this me? And if it's not, and the cool thing is, you don't have to have the answers right away. It's the questions that count. It's asking the right questions. I think in so many of the healing arena, another word that's way broad and generalized and overused, in the healing arena, we're asking the wrong questions. You can't ask who you're becoming unless you know who survival made you. And who wants to these memes about I want to go back to who I was before all this happened. Screw that. I don't want to go back to her. She's the one that got me in a lot of trouble. She got me in a lot of trouble. We do not want to go back to her. And we can't become who we're becoming unless we are brutally honest with where am I at today. I don't even use the words happy because they're real high up on David O. Harkin's map of consciousness, high, high, high vibration emotions that are sometimes hard to maintain, especially for those of us who've been vibing in guilt and shame and fear, because those are very heavy, heavy feelings. I like willingness. I like curiosity. I like satisfaction. I like contentment, right? So those words there's a settledness to those words. That's what I'm always looking for. Am I satisfied? Is a good question to ask. Am I content? Most of the time. Hey, you can do this work all day long. You're still going to have off days.
Yeah,
And they're just going to happen.
absolutely.
Some days still are get to the end of it. Did I breathe through the day? And did I stay sober today? And those are wins.
Yeah,
Those are
they
the wins.
those are definite wins, and you said something that is really I wanna bring it back for everyone again to really hear it. Happiness is not the goal of anyone's life, it's contentment because that is the settled state. That is the settled state you wanna shoot for. Am I content? Happiness is an extreme bit of contentment, and it's
Yeah.
unsustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's this high, 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 high vibe.
Yeah,
It's like pleasure and ecstasy. It's up there. It's very but a willingness, again, yeah, willingness. Maybe I am willing, right? You can even ask yourself the question, am I willing to take a brutal inventory and be honest with myself about if I'm satisfied most days? Am I content most days? Am I settled in my own skin? Because see, I was drowning self-hatred in a bottle for 20 plus years. It was self hatred. I hated myself, called myself stupid on a daily basis. And the statement of fact is that I'm actually a highly intelligent woman. And that reframing, that developing new neural pathways started with one thought at a time. I'm so stupid. Nope. I'm actually a highly intelligent woman. Now, the thought that me being stupid never crosses my mind anymore, but it started with one thought at a time.
Now, let's bring this all back to the bigger picture of building lasting sobriety and unshakable confidence. A lot of people listening use the sober method, and I want to ask you something that draws on your deep expertise here. I want to touch on stoicism and specifically on the dichotomy of control and how does calm approach things that we can and cannot control?
I think this is the most important thing I can say. And it may or may not relate to your question, but I think it's so important to say. We outgrew AA. It's okay to outgrow what you're using for your recovery. If one modality, because there are so many now, does not work for you, don't blame yourself. Don't carry the shame of, I did it wrong. I didn't do it right. I relapsed again. Statistically, we're going to relapse a minimum of 7 times before we achieve long term sobriety. There are so many methods for recovery out there. If what you're doing doesn't work, because my model may not work for you, right? If what you're doing doesn't work, don't judge yourself. Don't blame yourself. Pick another one, try it. And if that one doesn't fit, pick another one and try it. There are so many paths home to yourself. And if the first path you take doesn't work, maybe it's not you. Maybe it was not the right path to home for you. So I think in sobriety, in recovery from addiction, I think that's one of the biggest peeves of mine is that we're told there's one answer for healing, and there's not. There is a plethora of them out there, and many are the same at no cost, available online meetings, in person meetings. There are a ton out there. So I think the most important thing is if what you're doing isn't working, if you keep trying, something will land for you.
Yes.
Always one more day, always one more try. Rest is needed, but always one more try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
persistence is the key here. And sober is an extension. It's what came out of my own frustration that AA wasn't enough. I was
Yeah.
sober, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more. And that's where sober came about. And what I do today is I take sober as being this master plan that tries to bring all these other little plans together and say, hey, this may not be quite working for you. Why don't you try this that will help supplement this part of what I'm trying to get you towards? And that's what I'm
Yes.
really trying to do with this podcast is bring together thought leaders like yourself who have created these unique ways to get and sustain their sobriety because my hope is that the awareness of more of these programs allows everyone to see that they don't have to go the traditional path. They can go forward and find something that works for them. That's the main reason that I'm here podcasting today.
I love it. I love it. And when I work with people, very seldom do we even talk about the addiction piece. Believe it or not, very seldom do we talk about you. We talk about the individual. We talk about moving forward and taking that look that you've already done of looking backwards and using it for the utmost fuel.
Yeah. Well, everyone, here is one sober move I want each of you to take this week, inspired by Lisa's work. Observe one moment today when you feel yourself performing, reaching for the I'm fine, I've got it handled mask. I want you to catch it in real time. I want you to name that feeling underneath without judgment on yourself. In behavior, I want you to choose one small, honest action that signals safety instead of performance. Text one safe person the real answer to how are you? Or simply let your shoulders drop and take 3 slow breaths and tell your nervous system it's safe to stop bracing. And execute that one honest response today. And notice what happens when you let the mask slip just an inch and nothing falls apart. That gap between surviving and actually living is where your confidence starts to rebuild. Now, Lisa, we have a tradition on this podcast where each guest answers a question from my last guest and leaves one for the next. Wesley Farnsworth left this question for you. What is the one mask that you are still wearing today that you wish you could take off?
The people pleaser. I am a recovering people pleaser right now. Yes. I know I'm rocking the boat. Don't get me wrong. It's a rocking. The boat's rocking and nobody's liking these loving but direct boundaries. But I'm still wearing the gracious. I'm tired of being gracious because see, here's what happened. Guys, sometimes you'll overcompensate. I was fairly violent in my active addiction. And so I went way over here to like school marm, and I'm not. So where we're trying to come is moderation. We recovering addicts don't moderate very well. So we're trying to remove people pleaser completely. Yeah, that would be ideal.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Lisa. To everyone listening, keep observing your own behaviors. And if you're not already, start journaling them daily. A free guide is available at sobermethod.com. I'm Massimo Rigotti. This is the Sober Method Podcast. Please follow, like, subscribe, and leave a review. Please share this episode with anyone who needs to hear it. And remember, your future is sober.